So this is the day-wise agenda. So we are done with day one, right? All these topics. Now day two, these many things we are going to cover. Though I have added some extra things as well, which are not there in this email. So the today's session will be very interesting because theory. Theory was the main highlight of session one. I actually discussed about the internal architecture, other core components, but that is, kind of boring. So today, what we'll do, I have a virtual machine. I'll connect to that and we'll show you because I have both open source Postgres installed and EDB Postgres version 12 installed there. So I'll go and connect with the EDB Postgres one and we'll show you how things are there, how exactly it looks like, how you connect with the database, how you check the connection details, and other miscellaneous subjects or topics. For that, this is the first question, like first topic that we're going to cover today. What are the databases, clusters, and etc. Right. So what is a database? Like database is what? As I told you in day one, like database is something, a kind of a store, a repository where you can store your data in the form of rows and columns. But this terminology in Postgres spheres or Postgres environment is something else. It is not relevant or synonymous to what I just said about databases. Database in terms of Postgres is basically collection of tables, indexes, objects like views, sequences, function, trigger, package, procedures. So what is a database? Database is a group of objects. Objects could be table. Table contain information, right? Table is what? Table is where you have your data, your real data exists in tables. Indexes are what? Indexes are the component or the objects uh, which are used to improve the performance of your queries. For example, you have a column name as XYZ and you are expecting your select statement to do a search or a scan on that column XYZ. And because the data is very high in that column, so it's always best to go and create an index on the top of that column, right? So that's an independent entity or an object. It has nothing to do with the table. Of course, there are certain loose relationship between indexes and tables, of course, because it's actually relying on its uh, on its uh, on its entity. Like a table's column is what indexes use to create themselves. Correct. So there is a loose dependency between table and indexes. Otherwise, they are entirely different in terms of structure, in terms of definition. Everything is different between tables and indexes. So these are the two main core components when it comes to explaining databases. So forgot about the term that I've explained, like what are databases. Databases are NoSQL or could be RDBMS. That's a broad definition. That's a different and has nothing to do with database terminology in Postgres. So in Postgres database, once you install it, you can create your separate database, right? And that will contain what? That will contain your important objects of your application, like your tables, which contain your data, indexes for performance improvement, and we have got views as well. Do not worry about like what are views, function sequences, trigger, package function. Like these are some database objects, right? And as we progress ahead in this course, maybe in day 3 or day 4, or maybe in the last day, I'll explain something about views, a little bit a basic definition about views, function sequences, and all those things, right? But at this point of time, important for you is what are tables and what are indexes, correct? So database is a kind of a container that is part of a cluster which contains tables, indexes, and other objects, right? So a database cluster can have multiple databases, right? If you see this diagram, this image that I've used here in this presentation, laser pen. So this is a database cluster, right? And inside the database cluster, we have got database 1, database 2, database n. I mean, you could have hundreds of databases within a database cluster. So every database is independent and is not dependent anyhow on the other databases. Like database 1 or database 2 are entirely different, right? And are fully sovereign. So there is nothing that is common between these two. And if we check any of these database, it contains trigger function. Hello? Hello?
Yes, Prashant,
Yep.
yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Any question about this? Like, of course, like databases are kind of a containers or a repository which contains data. That's a general definition of databases, kind of a universal definition, I should say. But when you come in Postgres world, saying Postgres database is what you're talking about, one or few of the databases that are part
Prashant, your voice is breaking.
Postgres database cluster, right?
Prashant,
So
your voice is breaking
this
up.
cluster is nothing like that. For example, clustering means two independent machines.
Prashant, your voice is breaking up for the last 1 or 2 minutes.
Now it should be better, correct?
Yes, yes, now it's
Is it
better.
okay?
Yes,
Yeah,
now it
yeah.
is better.
I'm so sorry, guys. What happened is like I'm facing some trouble with my Wi-Fi connection, so
It's
that's why
okay.
I have to turn on my phone's internet. Okay. So what I was talking, like, forgot about the term that we have explained in day one about the databases. When you're here in the Postgres world, if someone asks or someone asks you to check the database and you have connected to a Postgres, that means he's actually asking you to check one or few of those databases that are part of that Postgres database cluster. That database can have tables, indexes, and other objects inside. Right. So if we talk about day one databases, we segregated or divided them into RDBMS and non-RDBMS and other type of databases. Well, that is a universal definition. But when you're dealing with a Postgres database, then if someone asks, okay, can you please check the database? What all tables are there? So what he's actually saying that specific database that is part of a database cluster where the database tables and indexed information lies, right? And on the other hand, if you do not get confused with this term called as cluster, database cluster, well, because in general or generic terms, cluster means basically a copy. Like for example, in Oracle, saying cluster, that means we've got two or more than two different hosts which have actually got different storage. We've got different RAM on each one of them, but they are working together to provide extra and powerful computations, right? And better hardware to use for a better performance. So that is something else, right? But here in Postgres terms, database cluster is nothing. It's a combination or a club of multiple databases. And within databases, you've got your data, right? Your indexes, your tables, and every other object, correct? I know these terms are a little confusing at this point, but slowly and steadily, once we move further on in this course, you'll get some more clarity about it. Or maybe if you want to read, you can of course can read about it on the internet. Or if you want to have any further discussion, I mean, we'll have a separate discussion about it. But yes, this is cluster. These are the databases, and this is the data what's there. You'll see within the databases. Any questions, guys?
No.
No, we're
Okay.
good.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. So as I promised, like let me quickly check and connect with my putty. But before that, I need to turn on this machine. It'll take a while to boot. Not boot, I mean to resume, because it's in a Nequince mode. Mm. So this is where as I told you, I have installed Postgres. Both open source Postgres is there, and alongside EDB's Postgres. So what I'll do, I'll connect with the EDB user, right, and we'll show you like what it is, how it actually looks like. Where is that? Ah, okay. Enterprise DB is the name of the OS user, which has the ownership of the EDB Postgres software. Cool. So we are successfully connected. Why I'm getting this white space in the end? Okay. All right. So we are successfully connected with a Postgres database host or a machine where we have Postgres installed, both open source and EDB's version of the Postgres. So how you will connect? And again, let's not follow a trend or a or a hierarchy of discussing the topics. Now, I mean, I automatically I'll cover it, but yeah, maybe in a random way, right? Because now I think time has come how I will be, how I'll show you how to connect. Okay, so pSQL is the command line interpreter what you use to connect with your Postgres database. And before that, how we'll know or check if if any data Postgres database here running on this host or not. So what you can do, you do ps-ep grep post. If you do that, you will see these many processes which have Postgres somewhere mentioned on them, right? So if you see, like we have got, this is AS12 is Advanced Server EDB 12 version, right? And we have got this is the default or the open source Postgres, right? But this is owned by Postgres user, and the another one is used by Enterprise DB, right? But as right now we are connected with Enterprise DB, so we are now only be able to make changes or check about the EDB Postgres. Right, these are the various background processes. Now, if we only talk about Enterprise DB, these many processes are spawned. Forgot about these agent PEM specific because this is Postgres Enterprise manages specific background processes, right? So let's leave about that. And archiver, if you see, like it's actually pointing to a specific archive sequence number or the wall number. Correct. We got logger, checkpoint, background writer, wall writer, auto vacuuming launcher. DBMS AQ is a new process that was there, I guess, in starting from 11. I don't know if we have discussed about it, but this is again a kind of an important background process that is used for advanced queuing or for streaming and data queuing basically. Right. So these are some idle sessions. These are some user sessions connected, but right now idle. Okay. So if you do and punch a pSQL command, here you will see you have successfully connected with the Postgres database, right? But if you see, it starts with Enterprise DB. What exactly is the meaning of it? It's saying you are connected with Enterprise DB user, correct? And the version of the Postgres is 12.6.7. This is the version. So the major release is Postgres 12, and the minor and the patch set version. The minor version is 6, and the patch version is 7. So it's Postgres version 12 with a minor version 6 and the extension or a patch set number 7. Correct. So if you want to know like what all databases present here, if you there are certain ways how you can do that, right? And in order to do, like, there are always two methods. If you want to get that information, you can always query dynamic views or tables, or else there are meta commands. Correct. So what I'm going to use a meta command, right? Hello.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, if you press -L, here you'll see list of databases. These are some custom databases that I've created called as Airport Benchmark DB1 Dikshit EDB Enterprise. Enterprise DB is the database which was created during the installation of Enterprise DB because it was because during the time of the installation, of course, we'll see how we can install the Postgres EDB Postgres in next session, if possible, right? And at that time, you have to mention like what is the default database that you want to create. So I actually mentioned Enterprise DB as a default database. Otherwise, apart from Enterprise DB and template 0 and template 1, because these two are the default databases that gets created once you do installation of Postgres. So no matter if it's an open source or a closed source like EDB Postgres, these two always gets created, right? You can always use as a sample to create your further further databases, correct? So airport, benchmark, DB1, Dikshit, EDB, PEM, PGB, and rep manager and Postgres are few of the one which I have created explicitly or manually. Enterprise DB is the one that I've created during the time of the installation. Otherwise, temp 0 and temp 1 are the defaults one, correct? So if you check, I have used the command -L. Correct. So -L provides you information about the databases, right? What are the different databases that are present in this in the system. Correct. Hmm. What else I should explain about it? I guess enough. And as I told you, like this, what I am actually using is a meta command, right? And that's a shortcut way of getting the information for you. Otherwise, there is always, base tables called PG underscore database, right? Uh, Let me show you. If you see, you can also get this information through PG underscore database, right? If you describe this, like what are the contents of it, you'll see OID database name, OID data name from PG underscore database. Uh, what's the mistake I did? Oh, select OID, that name, and this. So you're getting me? Right, right. So using this method of querying this table called as PG underscore database, basically this is a view, right? So if you query this PG underscore database, you can also get the same information like about template one, template zero is the name of the databases that are present. Otherwise, you can always go and use this extension, the shortcut way of doing -L. This also provide you the same information. So it's always easy to use meta commands. There are many different meta commands. In fact, there are 20, 30s of them, right? Slowly and steadily, I'll keep on explaining about it and use it. And I'll also show you the dependent or the another way, or the alternate way how you can get the same information, right? So if you want to check what are the list of databases, like this is the way how you can do it. /L, use this meta command, right? And also you can do it using tables or dynamic views. So the same result I can get from select OID, that name from PG underscore database. It's providing the same information. You can get this information like encoding owner and access privileges too from the same from the same table. But right now I only captured OID and that name specific details here or information. Correct. Now let me go back to that presentation. So I think now you've got some idea, right? Okay, this is the database and we've got multiple databases. For example, in our case, we've got a database, Postgres database cluster, and inside we've got multiple databases. These are the various databases that we have, right? These are the various databases that we've got. These are the names. So in short, we've got 12 different databases in total. So we've got 12 databases and each one of them has its own set of tables, indexes, and other objects. You getting me?
Yes, Prashant.
Yeah, very good.
Perfect. Okay, so let me once again reiterate the definition of a database cluster. So database cluster is just a collection of of databases that is managed by a single instance of running database server. Now you I guess now you have some idea. Now you will be able to relate like what exactly in an instance and what is a database, what is a cluster, right? And what are the tables inside and what are the indexes, right? So in total, we have got a single instance. And if we talk about instance is what? Instance is a club or a plus of background processes, memory processes, and data files. Correct? And management processes, right? So a database cluster is just a collection of the databases and that is maintained or managed by a single instance on this database server. So the moment you did the installation and after that, the very first thing after the installation you have to do is the initialization, right? I'll show you how to initialize. But after the initialization, a database cluster will contain a database name as Postgres also. As I told, Postgres and template 0 and template 1 are the default databases, which is meant as a default database for utilities or for user third-party applications. For example, you just want to test something in the Postgres, how things work, right? So you need not to create your custom database. You can go and use these three default databases, right? And can create your content in those one. Okay. Now, if you want to check what are the different tables we have got, and yes, one more thing. As I told you, we are connected with the enterprise DB, but that's the username. That's the user, correct? Now, if someone asks me like, what are the various users we have? So we have got another meta command called as du. So earlier we've got a list of the databases using /l as a meta command, but this time if you want to check what are the different users we have got, right? But this time, as you see, like we've got enterprise because we automatically or like let me show you. the moment we do pSQL and you press enter, automatically it connects us with the enterprise DB as a username and with default database enterprise DB. So we are connected with enterprise DB database. The name of the database is enterprise DB and the user we connected through is enterprise DB. It's same. How you can check what if this database is available or not? Yes, enterprise DB is one of the database. So it's a default database. It's connected through. We are connected through it. What about the user? Apart from enterprise DB, where we are connected right now, what are the other names of or the user we have got on this system, right? On this database. So you've got another meta command called as du. So du, if you see agent 1, agent 2, Dikshit, enterprise DB, right? Enterprise DB is also one of them. And we have got PGB, PEM user, replicator, repmem, MJR, and user 1. These are the different users we have got. Okay. Right. What else I should explain? Uh, okay. Right. So if you want to check, this is another meta command called as -c, like what are your connection details, like where you're connected and through which database you're connected right now. So you can also always use /c as a quick command or a meta command to get this information. You can also get this information through tables. There are certain tables, just like what we did for to get the list of databases. We use pg underscore databases, and we get the same information using /l. So same way, instead of using -c, you can get this details through another mediums like accessing tables or querying tables as well. So now, if we do not want to connect with this default database or default user, there you can always use this syntax, pSQL -d, the name of the database. For example, you want to connect with, okay, how many databases we've got? Okay, let's connect with Dikshit, right? Okay, Dikshit as a database and user. So earlier we connected with the default user enterprise DB. For example, we want to connect with user 1, right? Okay. Right. Finally, you are connected with Dikshit as a database, right? And hyphen use the user. How you can check that -c? Now you're connected with Dikshit database and username is user1. Correct. So now let's switch to the another topic, that is what are tables, right? We talked about databases, we talked about database cluster. What are tables and what are the indexes? How to create them? Correct. So let's do that. So first of all, if you want to check what are the, for example, if this is not a brand new database, it actually got created some few months back, right? So it must have got some data or information within this database. So how you can check, if you want to, if you only want to check list of tables, what are there within this Dikshit database, you can do that. DT, it says did not find any relations, no table exists, no table is there, right? So if you want to create table, create table, ec and let's give id varchar. This is the create table command. So create table and the name of the table will be ec. I just use the short form for our environment center, right? And there will be one single column that contain varchar into specific details, and the length of it will be 200. Do not worry about this, the varchar and this limit. I'll cover in subsequent sessions. But yeah, right now focus on this create table command. Like a create table is the way how we create table structure, right? And then you have to pass the name, and then you need to provide the column name, and then the data type. Like, is this a variable character length, or you can also use num, big, int. So many other data types exist in Postgres, and accordingly you have to limit it. For example, if you want to store IDs, and you think like IDs, and ID number can be very high, can be very long, basically. Sorry. So 200 should be the maximum limit. And if you think like, okay, only the maximum number can go up to 8 or 9. So let's give it 10. So you can do. Okay, so your table is created. Now, if you want to check the history, it's very easy. You just need to press up arrow key. So this brings us to the create table, the very last statement that we executed. And if you do one more click, that up button, up arrow button, it will take us to the second last command that we execute. So DT, earlier it resulted with did not find any relations, but this time it provided an information like, okay, it is owned by user 1 and it's a table type, name is EC and schema is public. I'll come to you like about the schema thing, like what is schema. But so far I have provided, I explained about what is database, what is a database cluster, what are the users, correct? All right. So, and along with the DT, there is also a possibility to get some more information. So instead of passing simple commands, you can always press you always plus button alongside with your meta instructions or meta command. This provides you some more information. So if you see, like we've got few more columns added to it. The one is description, another one is size. So if you want to check the size of a table, how you can do that? Instead of doing /dt, which provides some raw information, very general information, do dt plus. It will provide you size information too as well. But right now it doesn't have any row, correct? So we only created structure of this table and have we assigned ID as a column name, correct? And with the data type varchar and limit of 10. Correct. So the table is now successfully created under public schema with size 0 and is owned by user 1 and is a table, of course, with no as such description because we haven't added it. And the name of the table is EC, right? So if you want to insert a data, insert into, this is how we do it, insert into EC values and then single quote, for example, let's mention Canada. Okay, so that means insert is successful, right? And if you do select all from EC, here you'll see now we have got Canada as a value under ID column, right? And now once we've got a fresh row, a new entry, the brand new, the very first entry, the maiden entry to this table, this relation called as, do not confuse between relation and tables. As I told you, like I'm coming from an Oracle background where we always call tables as table, right? But here in Postgres terminologies, in Postgres world, table means relation. So that's why after typing DT, it provides list of relation. That means list of tables in short, right? Now, earlier it was showing 0 byte, but now finally we've got something there in this table, right? So size should be increased. So let's do up arrow button. Let's check for the history. Let's do DT plus once again. Yes, the size is increased. It was earlier 0 byte, but now it got 8192 bytes, all because we did an insert, a single insert. For example, if you do one more insert, and this time Lao. Okay, we've got another entry in this table. Let's do DT plus 8192 because what happened? If you see, like you could have asked me a question, why the size hasn't changed, right? Size is still same. We've got one more row. Why? Because it automatically allocates a default block, right? So this standard byte of 8192 is allocated for this, but it can contain multiple rows, right? Not a single one. So right now, earlier once the moment we did one single insert, so what the structure is something like this. We've got a big chunk of a chunk of storage with 8192 byte, and out of that, this single row with a value Canada occupies only 5% data. Rest 95% is free to hold or to house another rows. Correct. So the moment we do another insert, like we've got two values this time, right? If you do a select, you can get that info. Now we see, now we've got Canada and Lao as an entry in ID column for this table EC, but still, why not the size has been changed? All because it hasn't reached the limit of a block storage. It still have space to cater few more rows. So even if you go and do, more inserts, you'll see. Okay, we got three values. Still the size is same, right? But at certain point of time, maybe if you do 10, 15, 20, 30 inserts, you'll see the size is now doubled, right? Now then we got 8192 into 2 bytes as the size of that table. Okay, you got me? Hello.
Yes, Prashant. Got it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, right. So this is how you create a table, how you connect with your database, how you connect with the specific user, right? And what is PL SQL, what are meta commands, how you do an insert in a table, how you check the definition. For example, uh, to DEC, this will provide you information, right? This provide information like, okay, this EC table has got ID as a column, and this is a character varying, because if you remember, we mentioned varchar during the creation time, at the time of creation, right? We assigned it as a varchar type, varchar 10, right? So this is a varying character type, correct? If you want to get some more information, then you can press this. If you see now, we've got some more or extra columns here as a result of table words. We are simply describing a table structure, like what is the definition, how, what is the definition of this table EC. So this got one single column. This is a varying character with a length of 10, and forgot about collation, nullable, and default, right? And storage is extended, and access method is heap. So you might be thinking, what is this access method and what is this extended, right? That's that is something that you should be thinking about right now. So if I talk about the storage type extended, so extended is what? Extended basically allows both compression and out of line storage. That means this is the default for most toastable data types. Again, because I need to use this term toastable and out of line and compression, because I don't think like there is any another or the easiest way to explain it. But yeah, of course, as we move ahead, I'll explain about toastable and rest of the things, right? But till now, the important point I want to make is this is the default type, the default storage type that is there. For the moment you create any new table, it is always come or created as a with extended storage, right? Because this extended storage has some benefits, because it allows compression, it compresses your data, and out of line storage. Out of line storage means, for example, you've got a block, if there is a need to, and you actually uh, for example, 8192, we just saw 8192 is the standard size, and we inserted a big row, for example, email content, CLOB content, which are very huge in size. So even that single entry of insert, but we are doing it for a big data type, right? It won't fit under 8192. It could be a case it requires 292. It requires 100 more bytes, but that's not possible. So what it'll do, it will store 8192 here, and rest of the 100 byte it will be allocated to the next block. That is called as an extended block. So that's a performance feature. That's why Postgres, has kept this as a default storage type for all of the tables. Correct? Because it allows compression and out of storage. Is it okay? Or are you still confused?
No, fine. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Now, the last one, or the last thing that we've got here after doing D plus for EC, because these two information access method is not there once we did only, raw -d. But with D plus, with table name, we've got access method as well, along with other information. So storage, we know what it is. Access method is what? So what happened is, we are, of course, now let's check what is the version of this database. I mean, this Postgres software. So the version is Postgres 12.6. It's an enterprise DB advanced server with a patch set, or the exact version 12.6.7. It's working on x86 64-bit machine, right? And this is some other information, right? This is basically certified for 64-bit Red Hat edition. Okay, but you can also get this information through psql command as well. If you remember, the moment we did this command, we press this command, it brings us with this information, psql version 12.607, right? You can get this information from here too. But if you've got a dedicated command or dedicated syntax or a way how we can get that information. Okay, so now coming back to the point, access method. What is access method? It mentioned heap. Again, this is kind of a default I would say access method, and especially starting from Postgres 12, as we are running on Postgres 12, right? This heap is the standard or the default table access method, right? Because I was going through the beta edition of 14 of Postgres, and there I noticed, like, with this new version, they are providing some new access methods, right? For example, like columnar and in memory types, which are not present till version 13, right? But as right now we are running on 12, here we have got table access method as heap. That's the default method. I'll not go into the deep, like what is an access method, because in order to explain that, I need to go and start doing the interpretation, or I need to dissect execution plan, how the query planner or the optimizer work. That will make entire discussion you know out of the way. So I won't be discussing about it. But yeah, let's keep it simple. Access method is the default method if you're running on version 12 to access your tables. Storage is extended, again, uh, kind of a standard. Now, you might be thinking, okay, one that is default is extended. What are the other types? Other types, in order to explain that, I need to go and do, and remember, this time I just use psql command. I haven't used -d and -u because I want to connect with the default database and default user, right? So what is the connection info? We have connected with enterprise db as a database name and username as enterprise db, right? Okay. Now, if we want to check uh, what are the different tables we have got or relations, here enterprise db, because is an older is an older database, we've got many previously created relations or tables. Correct? We've got table name as large test, new test. Now, if we do d plus for this table called as large test, here if you see, storage type has been changed plain. Why? Because we've got a different type of data type. We've got big int, because that is used to hold larger data, big chunk of data, or big contiguous amount of data. Because earlier we use varchar. That is easily, because varchar is always comes with the default value of extended. But as we are using big int and double precision, so that always creates in plain format. So the problem with the plain storage format, it is not compressed and it cannot be used as an out of line storage. Correct? That's the condition. And access method is same, heap. Let's do the same for few more other tables. Okay, we have got heap. We've got some other information too, like it provided indexes information and primary key as well. Leave about that thing. But yeah, here with this table too, we have got two of the columns as plain and one is as a extended, because this is a character type. Character type has always come with the default extended, and rest for integers, it always comes as a plain type, right? Access method is again here same heap, because that's the only thing. That's the only possible access method if you're running on 12, because it doesn't have any new type of access methods. Oof. Okay, I think uh, I've discussed about this. All right. Now, for example, if you want to check, okay, let me go back to that same table what we have created. And plus, okay, we've got this table. For example, instead of using dt and dt plus this and that, if you want to check information on using tables or dynamic views or catalog tables, right? So you can use select all from information underscore schema dot tables, where table underscore schema equals to public. Okay, right? You see, okay. And one more thing, don't you think this result, the output we've got after typing this command is is little out of order, right? It's not looking good. It's quite hard to understand. So there is another method how you can do the formatting -x. So it will display the expanded function, right? So if you do the same command here, it is more readable now, right? So table catalog is Dikshit. It's publicly owned. I'll explain what is schema and what is public schema means. And what is a table name? Table name, it has got EC, and table type is a base table. That's a simple table, right? Is insertable into, yes, insert into command we have already used. That's why this option is coming in, yes. Correct. These are few other columns too. I'll not go into them, but yeah, that's how you can get this information. right? For example, if you want to check what all tables are created um, in my database, that what you can do, you can always use this command called as select all from information schema. Information schema is the default schema, right? And here you query tables and then you pass table name as a public. Okay. Hmm. Let right. Okay. Now I guess it's important. I should be discussing about roles and privileges and about the grant schema and roles. And before that, let me explain what exactly is schema. Like you used this term so many times, right? Okay, let's connect back with the default DB, right? Enterprise database and default user enterprise DB, right? So what is a schema? So again, this will be very confusing, I know initially, but you have to pay attention, right? So what is a schema? Definition of a schema is a kind of a namespace or a workspace, a storage, a personal namespace, I would say, that contains named database objects such as table views, indexes, data types, functions, stored procedures, and operators. You might be thinking, we just had the same information there in the database, but now why we've got schema as a new thing added, right? Because if you see, like, databases contain table indexes, these view function sequences, but internally to a database there are different other objects. Like within a database you have got schema, right? And schema is kind of a container or a namespace where you can store your table and indexes, right? And for example, we are connected with enterprise DB database and user is enterprise DB. If you want to check what is our current schema, what's where we are connected right now, so you can always do select current is spelling is right? Oh yeah, schema. Here you'll get that information. You are connected uh, with the default schema, right? Select all from region. Uh, oh, I Okay, we've got a meta command as well, how you can get a schema. So instead of using this, you can type dn, I guess. Yes, dn. So this provides a list of schemas. So we are connected with a public schema, right? And test sc is kind of, schema which you created for test purposes, just for playing purpose. Otherwise, if you check with your default database, it's always come with a public schema and enterprise DB, right? Because even if you go and check L, sorry, right? You'll see the schema name is coming as public for all of them, right? For all of them, because that's the single schema present or available. I've created this schema a few days back, but again, these tables are pretty older than that schema creation. That's why we have got, only single as a schema name for all of the tables that are created so far. So schema, as I told, like you can check this information using -dn, -dn, right? -dn plus. If you do that, it will provide some more information, right? For the description column, we've got standard public schema. This is the standard or the default schema that gets created the moment you create your database, right? You can also always create some manual tables, schemas. That's what I created a test SC as a schema, but that is pretty new. So that's why all of the tables are owned by that specific schema. All right. So that is all about it. I mean, what is schema? For example, uh, if you want to create something within test SC schema, right? You do not want to create in public schema. How you can check that, right? So how you can do that? You need to do a use a set command, set search underscore path to test SC, right? Yeah, only do that. All right. Now, if you go and check, oh, where is that command? That show search path. Huh? Show, oh, spelling RCH. Okay, so right now, if you remember earlier, when we checked select current schema, it was public, right? And now if you do the same command, right, doing show search path or select current schema is same, right? If you check current schema, now it's not public because we have set it to test SC, right? Test SC is the non-default schema which we created some time back, right? So now your current schema is this. For example, if you create a new table, create table test, name, worker, or maybe int. Okay, worker, this is okay. We've created this table, right? And now let's do dt plus. Sorry. Correct. So now if the moment you do dt plus, or if you want to check list of relations, because now you're not connected with the public schema, you're connected with the test SC non-default schema. So here you'll see all of these tables. Like recently we created test, just created we just created test as a table. So it got created in schema test SC. Now you are not seeing that public as a schema name because earlier we connected with public. So that's why we are only seeing public owned tables, public schema owned table. But right now, once we switch with the different schema, we are now started seeing objects, especially tables and anything which are part of this, right? For example, if you want to create a view, create or replace view as select all from test, replace view, replace view name, view name is test view as test. Okay, view is created, right? And now if you want to check what are the views created, we have got another meta command. We've got -dv. We've got this. Again, this got created in test SC, right? So now the purpose of doing this demo is like I want you to explain like what are tables, what are schemas. User we already know, like Enterprise DB was one of the user, Dikshit was one of the user, but here in this case we have got schema as a very important thing. Schema is nothing within the databases. Like we've got cluster inside data clusters, we've got databases, and within databases we've got schemas. So the default, if you haven't created any personal or custom schema, then everything or every data will go into the default schema that is called as public, right? But here in this example, we actually use another schema that is a non-default schema called as test SC, right? And after using test SC, we only started seeing data about which are owned by this specific schema, right? We have got these many things, right? We have got view, which is owned by this schema, right? DTV plus. If you do this, now you'll start seeing what we did. We did a combination. We clubbed DT. DT provides information about tables. We added V as a command that provides V, right? So instead of typing -dv and -dt, I actually clubbed command DTV plus. So this will provide information about data, about tables and views. So here you'll see it. We've got two tables and a single view. View we have just created and table we created a few seconds back, right? So right now we are only seeing DT, objects, which could be a table, view, or procedure, index, anything, right? So this test schema has got these many objects, two tables and single view. Now, if we want to uh, set it to public, we need to go back. We need to switch to a different schema, right? Set search underscore path to public. It's set, right? And now how you can check that? Select current schema. Okay, we are connected with the public earlier. After switching, we saw it as a test SC, but once we set it using search path and go back to public as a schema, now we have got public, right? So if you want to check, same thing here, we have got a different information. Here it didn't have any view, so that's why it only provided table information. So these many tables are owned by public schema. In total, 10 tables, right? And on the other hand, once we switch to that test SC as a schema, we have got these many objects, right? We have got few tables and we have got view, a single view. On the other hand, within the public schema, we've got these many objects. I think now this thing, the difference between a user and a schema is clear, correct? Hello?
Yeah, yes, Prashant. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
clear.
right. Okay. Right. So remember, like how like right now we are connected with a user called as Enterprise DB. For example, you want to list all of the users. What you can do, as I told you, du, right? These many users or roles are present. Correct. Roles and users are, you know, are exactly the same. There is no difference between a role and a user. Let me show you the difference. Right. Uh, Select a role name from pg underscore roles. As I told you, like we can always get this information using meta commands and views and dynamic views or tables as well. So right now, instead of typing or using a meta command, I'm using this table called as pg roles. Right. So these many 45 roles we have got. Right. And on the other hand, if you check underscore user, here you'll see eight users. So what's the difference? If you noticed, if you remove these default, I mean, the one that starts with AQPG PEM. Okay, Enterprise DB is one of the role name, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And this is matching 8 rows. So we queried pg underscore user. I mean, we generated list of users that are there present in this database, Postgres database. And on the other hand, we check pg roles. Roles are many, but few of them are default. But if you check, the custom created roles, we have got exactly 8. If you match Enterprise DB, yes, we have got agent 1, replicator, all of them are same. Right, so that's why the count is exactly the same. Do not worry about this 45 count because it actually includes some pre-created or application or tool specific role details. So if someone asks you, this question is very common during the interviews, like what is the difference between a user and a role, right? So uh, these are exactly the same thing in Postgres, but with the only difference is that user have the permission to log in by default, right? Because if you check, you are using this username Enterprise DB, right? So that's the that's the reason, because user comes with the login functionality. You cannot use a role to log into your system, to log into the Postgres database. That's not possible. That's the only difference between the two. That, like, the users have the permission to log in, that is by default, and roles doesn't have. Otherwise, it's exactly the same. As I told you, the count is same. The username is matching with the role names, except it has got different, you know, application or tool specific roles. All right, that has nothing to do with the username. Okay. At the same time, we know like what it is, what is a user, how we can check that, right? Uh, for users, as I told you, instead of using this command, you can also use -du. Yep, right. And let me do this way, -du plus. Now, if you see, if we talk about this role name as agent 1, right? So attributes no inheritance cannot log in, right? Okay, let me Okay. Where is the enterprise DB? Enterprise DB, enterprise DB. Just a second. Imagine Dikshit. Okay, yeah. If you see, these are the permission, right? For example, this Dikshit role or user, again, I'll use this term interchangeably, role or user. So this Dikshit user or role has a superpower privilege. It has the power to modify, to drop, to select, to delete anything from any database, anywhere. Same is the case with the enterprise DB. Enterprise DB is the another. In fact, this is the default one which we named or created at the time of the installation. So enterprise DB role or user has attributes or functionalities of a super. He is a super user. He can create a role. He can create a new role. He can even create a database. He can provide. He can perform replication specific changes and can bypass RLS. RLS is low level security, role level security. Yeah, bypass RLS. It has that permission or power to even bypass role level securities. Right. So though Dikshit is a super user, of course, he has the power as well, but he do not have privilege to create role, to create a database, to create a replication. Right. So let me show you how we can do that. Now, instead of connecting with the enterprise DB database, now we are connected with the Dikshit, right? If now we are connected with Dikshit as a database and user one is the user. Okay, let's try to create a database, create database test. Permission denied to create database because if you see, this user Dikshit do not have a privilege or a permission to create the database, correct? I mean, it only has super user privilege. So he will be able to modify, delete anything, insert anywhere, in any table because he has got the super user privilege. But he do not have the privilege to create a database, to perform replication specific duties, or even to create a role. He won't be able to create a role, right? We just tried to create a database while connecting with this Dikshit as a username, right? So we failed, right? Because we do not have the permission. Correct? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let me switch. Okay, so we are done with tables. We're done with user roles and schemas. I guess now that's why I use this confused smiley because this create a lot of lablu, lot of confusion among the DBAs. Right, even experienced DBAs have not much clarity about the difference between users, roles, and schema. But right now, I guess, I'll be able to explain the difference. So tables are clear. Now I'll provide you information like what is a privilege. So privilege is what? For example, you have created a table and you have inserted rows, right? So of course you have the permission because you yourself have created that table. You will be able to modify any or to perform any change, right? So let's do a test. But what will happen if someone else, see now using C command. Uh, if you type -c and press enter, it will provide you the connection details. Like, I mean, sorry, the database and user specific details. If you want to connect with a specific database, and you can also do it from here, right? So I'm going to connect with enterprise DB as a database name and want to connect with user one. Right, so now I'm connected with enterprise DB database and with you through user one. Right, let's see what all tables we have got. So again, these many tables. Now if I try to do a select on this table called as new tab. Oh, sorry, empty. What it says while doing a select on this table Tesla, it says error, permission denied for table Tesla. Why? Because we are connected with user one. Though we are connected with enterprise DB as a database, but user one do not have the permission or privilege to even select. Modification is different, right? In fact, he's not even allowed to do a select to check what is there in a table. So permission is denied, right? So how we can do that? We need to go back to DB database and then enterprise DB as a username. We are connected with enterprise DB username on enterprise DB database. Correct. So let me grant select on new what was table name? Tesla to user one. Yeah, the grant is successful, right? Now if you go back and try to enterprise DB user one, okay, now you're connected to user one, right? So if you remember, once we earlier we tried to do a select, we got permission denied message, but this time no. This time because we granted a select on permission to Tesla user on Tesla table to user one, right? So earlier this user one has missing privilege to even do a select on table Tesla. So that's the reason he actually received this error, right? So we granted select on command or select on privilege. This is the privilege basically, the select on. This could even be delete on, update on, drop on, right? So there are multiple privileges, right? So we just granted, and after granting that permission, or that privilege, now that user one is able to do a select. How you can now, being an administrator, how you can control, do a control on user activities, right? If you feel like this department should not have access to these many tables, in fact, they won't be able to search or select, like to see even what are there in those tables, you can simply, create a profile. That's also one of the easiest way. Otherwise, revoke the privilege. We just did a grant and uh, let's roll back this thing. Instead of granting, I have assigned revoke on this. So I revoked permission. Sorry. Revoke select on Tesla from user one. That's it, right? So let's go back to user one, right? Earlier he was able to do a select. If you check now, permission denied once again because we have revoked that permission. So now it's all same how it was earlier, right? He was not able to do even select operation on this table because he was not authorized to. But somehow, if we receive a request and someone says, okay, I need an access for 1 hour. So during that time, DBAs will come, administrators will come, grant privilege, a select on privilege or whatever required privilege is to that user so that he or she will be able to perform the activities or duties at that for the specified time. Okay, all clear? Hello?
Yeah, Prashant.
Yeah, Prashant.
Okay, fine. Now, another important thing is data files. If you remember during the very first slide, I actually draw the container with and gave a heading called as data files. What are data files? So data files is a physical thing. Like table is what? Table is logical. Schema is logical. Role is logical. Privilege is logical. Everything is logical, right? But data file is kind of basically a structure that you'll see on the storage itself, right? Where we have our real data. This table is lying there in the form of some OID, some unique codes, not with the exact name, like we have created table test. You won't see that name there on the disk, right? But in fact, if you go and start searching your table, your data files, you will see some OIDs assigned to it, right? So first of all, let's switch to that thing. Okay. If you want to check what is our data directory, I mean, where we have our data sitting or our data files, right? You can always use this location, this command, show data underscore directory. So this location is this. So, sorry. So exit is the command, how you can come out of it. And also you can do this -q again is a kind of a meta command which help you to come out of the Postgres terminal, right? Exit or /q to exit out. Okay. So let's do CD, go to data directory. Here we have got these many files, right? So if you go and this is the data directory, correct? Now, if you remember, we have got these many tables, right? For example, we checked about Tesla, right? And if we want to know what is the location, right? And rel names. I mean, if you want to find the table file, which are, I mean, that physical file, data file name by running as any specific command. So this is the way how you can do that. Select rel name, rel fill node from pg underscore class, where rel name equals to, here you can mention your table name, right? Tesla. Oh, okay, okay. I did a mistake. Here, rel file. I missed E. Name Tesla. Okay, finally we'll got the rel file node. So this is the node number. As I told you, like the table, every table has a rel file node, or this is basically kind of an identifier, how you can identify your table data on disk, right? I mean, in the form of data files where it is, right? Uh, so this is the data directory, right? How we checked. This is how we checked it. So we are in the same location under the data directory. These many folders are there. Go to base directory, right? If you check these many, these are the database specific folders, right? So every database has its own folder. So we need to check about the database now. 106750. Sorry. Sorry, before that, we also need to check about the data, because right now where we are, where here we've got the folders, and each folder is specific to databases. So we need to check the databases and its OID from pg underscore database, where that name equals to. So our table Tesla was owned by which database? Was part of the Enterprise DB database, right? We are connected with the Enterprise DB. So Enterprise DB. Okay, 16384 is the OID or the folder for this database. Okay, so we are here. Let's go to 16384. Where is that? Here it is. CD this. Okay, so right now we are in 16384. That is the respective or the dedicated folder for our database name, that is Enterprise DB. Right now, next we also identified the rel file node or the data file location on the disk for this table. So this table Tesla is there present on the disk with name or the data file name called as 106750. Here, if you see, we've got so many files. Let's search this file specific. Here it is. We've got a file with a name, right? So, and you also been thinking about what is this VM, right? And this FSM. VM is basically got, VM or FSM are basically maps, right? Which are created for a faster access, I would say, right? So these are some files which got created for the faster access. And apart from that, you know, this VM, or in short, what we call as a visibility map. So this is very useful to get the location, right? What is the location of the blocks, right? And same goes with FSM, or these are basically kind of a maps, right? So in short, as I told you, these what we call as a VM or visibility map, right? This is simply how I can explain. A list of blocks or pages, right? Because page is the term what we interchangeably use in for blocks in Postgres world. So it's basically a list of pages or blocks which contain rows, right? Or row specific information. Correct. And about this FSM, that is for always for free space. Like what is the free space available in the primary relation or a table, right? So every table has VM or FSM, but they only gets created once you do the vacuuming. But again, let's not make things complicated. Our mission was to identify the data file location and what is a data file. So as I told you, like we have created a table, right? So in total, first of all, comes the database cluster. Within a cluster, we have got databases. Within a database, we have got schemas. And within a schemas, we created our different objects. We have created a table a few minutes back, and the table name is Tesla, for example, right? And that Tesla table, once we created that table, that table is something which we can query, and then only we'll come to know about it, right? But in the background or under the hood, what happens is it creates a physical file, which is called as a data file on the disk. So if you go and delete this file called as 10 with a OID or the number 106750, then automatically you won't be able to access that table, because ultimately its data file is deleted, or it's renamed, or it's inaccessible somehow, right? So it's very important, like all of our data files should be accessible, and should always kept on a better performing IO or storage, right? Okay, let's go back to PL SQL terminal. So now next topic, I think is about yes, table spaces. So we are clear about data files. We've got a good understanding on tables, privileges, user roles, and schemas, and we are clear on these many topics. The rest is about the directories, logging, debugging. I'll quickly show, right? And yes, before that, I mean, let's make a use of this uh, screenshot, what I've pasted here in this presentation. So database cluster is kind of a super entity, and this is a root directory, right? Root directory, we've got database cluster, and within that, we've got PG data. PG data is nothing. PG data is basically kind of an environment variable that always point to your base directory, right? Where you've got data, correct? So within the PG data, you've got base directory. Let me show you. So this is our data directory. We are here, right? PG data. And within that, we have got base directory. Yes, we have got base directory, right? And within, if you go under base directory, as we just checked, we've got these many database specific folders. Yes. If you see, this one always represent template 0. We have got one. Yes, we have got one. This is for template 0 database, right? This is for template 0. Template 1 is 12891. 12891, where it is. Okay, this is version 12. I think number 9 name has been changed, right? Otherwise, this is an older screenshot. So every database has its respective directory under base, right? And as we checked, we have got our enterprise DB, and it has got its own data directory, right? Same way, if we go back, apart from base, we have got these many different directories as well, like PG logical, PG notify, PG multi extract, global, and log, right? You'll see global, PG logical, PG stat. Yeah, these are the different base directories. Correct. Now when we are talking about this directory, let's quickly check about them. Like, what is a PG version? This is a file. This is not a directory. PG version, for example, if you do not want to check it through PSQL command line interpreter, you can always check the version of the Postgres using this file. The version says, the major version of Postgres, it says 12 version what you're using. Base is the subdirectory which contains per database subdirectories. We already covered that. Current log files, right? Current log files is a directory. I think that's again a screenshot is from 10 or 11 version. We do not have this file. This was early, this even clubbed or removed. Global directory. Yes, we do. We do have global directory. What are there in global directory? These many things, these many tables, of course. But these are tables which are for cluster wide tables or catalog. Like we very frequently we queried PG tables database. If you remember, we use PG user, PG roles, right? Those are the tables, right? So those table specific information always is available under global directory, because those are globally accessed, right? PG commit and PG logical, PG multi extract, right? PG wall is the directory which contains wall files or write ahead files, right? So this is again a very important file, right? If we talk about log, this is the file which contains logging information, right? And these file always gets created once you start your database. For example, if you have started your database 1 month back, so you'll have a single file for the entire duration of or the runtime. The moment you start, or do a reboot of your database, automatically a new file will be created with a date name, right? So if you check, right now is 2. So the system is up. This database is up since 2. Right, so we've got this file for 6.2. Otherwise, it was earlier stopped, right? If you go and check this file, you see a lot of things. It says like what all errors or issues what we have faced, right? These many issues, like permission denied issue we have got, right? And column rel file, if you remember, we encountered one error which is specific to this. So all of these files are always logged here. And if you want to get some, because this is a very basic information what we got here in the log files. If you want to get more, then you can always go and use logging with all. So that will basically logs every information or every small granular information that happens in your database. Right now we have only enabled the DDL level, for example the data definition level, whatever thing that happens with the DDL. Otherwise, if you want to check, if you want to set it for all of the operations, you can always set all, right? So PG wall is where we have got our wall files. If you see, we've got these many files, in short 271, with overall size of 4.2 GB. So we've got around 4.2 GB of wall files with total count 271. Correct. Right, next is okay. Let's discuss about this. What do we call PostgreSconf. This is, as I told you, PostgreSQL.conf is the primary or the chief configuration file. Every change or every parameter that you want to modify or set, you always need to do in Postgres.conf file, right? So if you lose this file somehow, you won't be able to start your database, because ultimately it will throw an error while starting, right? The configuration is missing or something like that. Okay. Now, if you go and do a VI, this is how it looks like. Listen address, port information, right? SSL, dynamic shared memory allocation type, wall level, logical, right? For example, if you want to check any specific parameter like log, these many things, right? Where is that log? Uh, log directory is log. So for example, if you want to set a different directory, you can always go and modify this parameter, remove that comment, and then you can set your own custom location. Right? If you do not want it is a standard error output for your log files. If you want to save into the CSV format or even in event log or CSV log, you can do that by modifying this parameter. Right? Log line prefix always ends with -t to enable log reading. Right? So these are, some default or and non-default both options. Okay. Fine. And for example, yeah, one more thing. Instead of log, you want to check work mem. What is the work mem allocated? So right now is 4 MB. So we have allocated only 4 MB to work mem. You can always modify because this is a default destination. Sorry, default installation. I'm so sorry. So this is the default installation that comes always with the 4 MB in size, no matter what's your RAM size, but it always comes with 4 MB. Maintenance work mem 64 MB. Auto vacuuming -1. -1 is to use maintenance work mem. So instead of auto vacuuming, or if auto vacuuming happens, it should use maintenance work mem instead, right? Right, we've got 3 more minutes. I try to cover as soon as possible. Otherwise, I'll stretch by 10 more minutes. Okay. Now, if you want to check what is the port number, con info. So we are connected with Enterprise DB. Remember, we use earlier -c, but if you type this entire command coninfo, it will provide you database name where you're connected, which database you're connected with, what is the username which you used, and then what's the socket, where the socket is created. The socket information is there in /temp directory, and port what you're using is 5444. Correct? And yeah, that's it. These are the different files. So important here is to understand the purpose of Postgres.conf. What are the different parameters? So there are, hundreds of parameters what you can see in Postgres.conf. Few are default or few are non-default. So you need to understand few of them, especially the one which are related with the background processes, maintenance activities, data files, and all. Right. Okay. Now I guess we're still left with the table spaces. Are we? Yes, correct. Table spaces we haven't covered, right? So let's quickly, understand what is a table space. What's the meaning of? So table space again is kind of a again I need to make a disclaimer here. I've worked in so many different environments, so many organizations, and so many production setups I've seen, but on very rare occasions I've seen like they've created table spaces, right? Because table spaces concept is still there. It actually matches more or tends more towards the Oracle databases, but still we have a concept of table spaces in Postgres too. So yes, you can create table spaces to store database objects, right? For example, in other parts of the file system. For example, you do not want to create your data files within base directory. Instead, you want to create somewhere else. So what you can do, you can always go and create a separate table space, right? A separate table space, and then you create a table using that specific table space, right? That's how you can do that. So let me quickly do an example. No, 5 minutes. uh, DB. These are the list of table spaces what we have got. PG default and PG global. All of these two, sorry, are default. Right? So this one is with size 1063 MB because this is the default table space and all of the tables are by default created under 1063. So as I told you, there are default table spaces which are enough for your production usage, but still if you want to create extra or separate table spaces, you can always do that, but it's still not recommended. I will not say that it's recommended or not, but yeah, there are certain scenarios where creating a separate table spaces and keeping your data files on a separate disk can improve performance. But yeah, that's a very rare case. Otherwise, if you're because if you always if you did your installation on top of, for example, SSD disk, then of course there is no use, right? But still, if you want to use regular disk, but you want to keep your data files on a separate SSDs in order to improve the performance, so that's how you can do that. Just create a table space, allocate some size, and then create a table space and use that specific path while creating the table space and assign or create the objects using that same table space, right? So let's do it. Create table space test EBS, huh? Test EBS. Location should be what? Let's create it in temp. Oh, again, we got an error which says could not set permissions on directory temp because we do not have permission on temp directory because we are connected with enterprise DB user. An enterprise DB OS user do not have access to create anything there on temp file. Guys, this again a kind of a meta command /! You can use it for your OS command instructions, for OS instructions. For example, if you want to check, you still want to connect with the PL SQL terminal, but you want to check what is the path, for example, right? So how you can do that? Otherwise, you need to come out, do exit, and then you do the pwd command. But you can also do the OS specific commands by using this /! Right? Okay. So we were creating table space. So what I can do, where we are right now? Okay. Well, it's never ever recommended to create your table space within your data directory. This is our data directory where we've got all these files. So it's never ever recommended. You should have created different space. Let me go back. mkdir test tbs. Fine. Test tbs. This is the path. Okay. Create test table space location. I should give this location now. Okay, so finally we've got our new table space, right? So let's go and check the table space. Yes, we have got a new table space. This is the exact location. Why we are not going location? Why you're not getting location details for the default table spaces? Because um, they're always there in the data directory, right? In fact, in the base directory under the respective database folders and then tables, right? So it's not required. So that's why we are not getting location specific information. But when we create any custom table space, we can always get, right? So current size is 0. So let's do it. Let's create a table first. Create table. Test tab is the name of the table that I've assigned. ID uh, integer. Let's make integer. Make it as not null. Value as text, again not null. And then I declared table space as, what was the table space name? Test table space. Okay, so the table is created. Oh, sorry. uh, okay, so let's do an insert. Uh, Before that, let me check. Okay, so automatically its size is increased now. We have got 8240 bytes. The moment we create a new table and allocated or assigned its creation under table space test TB, right? Earlier it was 0 bytes in size, right? Any questions? Hello?
No, Prashant.
Okay, okay. All right. Now, what else I can do? Let's create an index, right? This will give you an idea to like how to create an index. Create index, or let's name it as test tab X. Right, on table name is test tab, right? Ah, yes, test tab, and what value I should use? New tab val, okay, new tab val, huh? New tab val table space is test. Yes. What happened? Oh, I used 2 times on. Index on test tab, right? Right. Column name wall, right? And then the table space name. I do not have val column. What's the problem? D plus test tab. Oh, we got cal, not val. Okay, I forgot. Okay, finally we got an index. Okay, so let's do this D plus test tab. Okay, so here we are, right? So we have got a this new table space called as test TBS. So once you describe this table, the new table what we created with the name test tab. So this is where we created the table, right? This is the table what we created. After first we created this table space under this location. We started seeing that information using db plus as a meta command and under the list of table spaces. The moment we create next table, we'll see that in the list of tables as well, right? And after that, we created an index as well, right? And now if you expand or if you check the structure of the table, you will see this information. Like we have got index, a B tree index, that's a default binary tree index on a column cal using table space test tb, and the table itself is created under table space. An access method is heap. Now if you come out, right, if you see where we are right now, we are under the test TBS OS directory, which we created a few minutes back. Let's go back with a new file. We have got these many files. Few of them are for index and few of them are for table, right? So that's the purpose of the table space. But I will still not recommend anyone to create table space until unless there is a special reason or there is some performance specific improvement that they want to make in the database. Otherwise, it's enough. PG global and PG default, the default table spaces are all okay, right? Sorry. So we are done with the data files, table spaces, table privileges, user roles and schemas, and also covered location, logging, debugging, and everything. Like we've got configuration. We studied configuration files too. Right. One more thing. Data. Okay. I forgot about this PGHBA file. This is a networking file, a very, very critical file. Here you, if you check, like I actually allowed a trust connection for everyone which connects with this database. That's the reason why I need not to provide any more information. I just punch, the moment I punch pSQL, it automatically picks the username and the database, because we have enabled trust-based authentication, and for every IP that we connected with, connects with, right? So yes, this PG_HBA is a very important file that again lies under location home directory, I mean your data directory. So this PG_conf is the file which contains some network and specific details and is very critical. For example, if you lost this file, then you will be in a very difficult situation. So that's why it's always important to make a copy of it and keep it somewhere safe for any case if you want to use them. Right. So we are clear on roles, schemas, users, and everything,
So,
right?
sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in this PGA HPA corner, you
Yeah.
mentioned that loopback address, right? So
Yeah.
how does it mean? Like it can be accessed by all the requests. Like is it from external or else only internal kind of stuff?
It's for everyone, because we have mentioned the 127 loopback address and we have marked as trust-based authentication. So trust-based authentication means you need not to pass or type any passwords, because the other possible methods are MD5 where you actually need to mention the password. Correct. So we have actually marked every, because this is a test connection. You never see this kind of configuration for PGHB in production box, of course, right? Because this will be a very dangerous situation then, right? So you need to make changes to the authentication type, right? Change it from trust to MD5 or any specific or customized authentication method, right? And yeah, that's it. And because if you check, especially this IPv4 local connections, this is for local connections, right? What I was pointing is for replication for rest of the host, for replication specific host. Here, if you
Okay.
check, I mentioned 0000. Right.
Okay.
So everyone, anyone, you can count it as a
Okay.
asterisk or star sign, right? So everything which comes with this listen connection can listen to this host, right? And because this we have set it as a trust certification or trust with authentication, so no need for even handshake, right? No authentication
Yeah.
is needed or advised. So it automatically, it will not even ask for the password pass, right? It simply go and connect you with the database, no matter now if it's an external connection or a local connection. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
And meaning all means database. All databases, all users, every address is trust based authenticated. So now,
Okay.
even if if I am a hacker, if with this kind of database configuration, I can easily come into your system and and remove data or even get the get your bank specific details from any of your table, right? So
Yeah.
never ever you will see this kind of configuration anywhere in a production shop. Of course not, right? And apart from this. Uh, Yeah, I mean, for example, if you want to check port information, right? What is the port number? I remember, like I told you, like to use con info command, because at the end it provides you 5444 as a uh, as something, and there is this postmaster.pid. So if you guys remember, postmaster is the master process which control rest of the background processes, right? If you open this text-based file, it will provide you this information as well, like what is the socket, what socket I mean the location where socket information is saved, and what is the port number. So you can also get the port number here, port number through here, and also there are some tables how you can get the information, like for from PG settings. Yes, PG_settings where name, sorry, name equals to port. Yes, you got this port information, correct? That's how you can get it. Okay, what else? What else? What else? And yeah, one more thing. For example, you see these many table, and if you want to do a select on suppose Tesla, you got your rows back. Let's imagine a situation if I'm new to this database, I have no idea, I've come from Oracle background, and if I try to do this, that also work. It's not case sensitive. I've seen that. Instead of in small case, I've typed it in in uppercase. It worked for me.
Yeah.
Right? So that case sensitivity is not there in Postgres. Yeah, one more thing, and one more way actually, if you want to check, because this is something that is very important. Oh, sorry. Yeah, let's do netstat. Netstat, hyphen blunt. Let's give blunt. Let's blunt grep if you want to check on port information. Yeah. So for EDB post master 5444 is the port number where it's actually listening the request for both TCP and TCP6. Okay.
Okay.
And it's in listen status right now. Okay, that's it. That's it. That's it. And this is how you check your background processor, sorry. Yeah, that's how you can check that. Now, if you see, yeah, this is our data directory, right? But what exactly is this location, right? So this is the bin directory where we have got all of the utilities. Here, if you see, if you want to create your database, this is the utility for you. Right? If you want to drop a DB externally, not through your command line interface, then you can do it through this. As I told you, like after the installation, we first need to do the initialization, which actually creates your cluster, your databases, default databases, initdb. So that utility sits here in this location. This is a different location than your data directory, right? It actually got all of the utilities. For vacuuming, we've got vacuum DB. So in order to call utility, you have to go to this directory, call vacuum, or whatever is your purpose, right? If you want to dump all, you do pg dump all, pg control, pgctl is the method how you do the reboots. So now we are clear on how we can check if database is running. PSEF grep post, connect with the database -c and coninfo. You know that switch user -c, right? And bounce the database is something that will very quickly cover in next 2 minutes. And how to check port? Yes, we know connection details, coninfo, right? Version we already checked. Select version is the command, right? How to describe a table /d plus and then the table name will give you the description of a table, like what are the column, their definition, their indexes, if there are any foreign key constraint or everything. Call a command from a file. So this you can do that -i, nothing. When I do PSQL -i, and for example, you have some file name as test.sql. You can punch this command automatically. PL/SQL will use this as an input, and whatever commands that are mentioned here in this file will be automatically gets executed through this. Okay, and check all settings. Show all. Check all settings is show all. Correct. This provides a description as well. What is the meaning? Like application name. I'm talking about this postgres.conf file where we have got maintenance work mem specific information. So if you want to know like what is the meaning of this specific parameter, which what I see here in this file, so you can always go and use show all command. Else select all from pg underscore settings where name equals work underscore mem. What's the meaning? Okay, -x, do the formatting and then execute. Otherwise, this look little off. Okay, work mem. Current setting is 9216 KBs. Okay, category is this is a resource usage and memory category. Short description is it sets the maximum memory to be used for query workspace. Extra description is this much memory can be used by each internal sort operation and hash table before switching to temporary disk files. Correct? So these for every parameter, if you want to study, you need to rely on this PG settings, right? This will provide you some good information about all of the parameters. Okay. Now the last thing is bouncing the database. As I told you, for this we need to go back to this bin directory, and then pg underscore ctl is the utility. Pg underscore ctl utility you have to use, right? And then Stop. And then after that, you have to pass the data directory. For example, why data directory is required? For let's take an example. We have got multiple databases running and might be using, same location somehow. That's very wrong practice, but somehow. That's why you need to always need to specify -d as a location. How you can get that? Oh, my terminal is hanged. Just a second, huh? Let it come back. Okay, it's back. Show data directory. This is our data directory. All right. So here in this directory, bin directory, where all of the utilities and executables are there, pg_ctl. What I'm doing, I'm actually try to stop your database and then we'll start it. Correct. Stop -d, name of the path of the data file. I mean, the data location is this. This is waiting for server to shut down. OK, it's completed. It's stopped. Right now, if you go and check post, you only see for the open source Postgres that is owned by Postgres, but all of the enterprise DB specific processes are gone now because it's closed. Correct? Because if I go back, he will see many of the processes are there running with the enterprise DB username. Right? Am I clear?
Yeah, Prashant.
Okay. So let's start. Start our database. Right. Our server is successfully started. If you check the logs, it'll say for IPv4 and v6, it's using 000. Everything is allowed on using port 5444. Right. The socket file is this with this exact name. Correct. And also it now redirecting the output. Now, if you remember, while discussing about logging, I have discussed a bit about logs. Now, if you see, what's the time? 2:20. So exactly as 2:29, we have got our new log file, right? So let's see what we have there. Nothing. It says something about the enterprise DB tuning. This is whatever. This is the default information, right? It talks about DBMS advanced queuing process is ready and started, and database system is ready to accept connection. That's it. And now subsequently it will be okay. Let me do something. New session. Uh, 2 more minutes. Huh? Frame. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. Let me do a tail on this file. On our main terminal, we see there is not any table or relation with this name. Same is copied here too in the log file, right? For example, let me drop this table, new tab. Let's see if this will be recorded there or not. That is not recorded because we haven't enabled structural commands or data definition commands. OK, that's it for this session, right? And that's the end. That's the last slide from my presentation. I'll quickly share it on your email, and hope as you are already recording, please take a look. And for any query or confusion, you can always call me. OK.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right. Any question?
No, Prashant.
We may need to practice few commands actually because there are too many commands which we need to keep in our mind.
Yes.
So maybe we need to practice it.
Yes.
So only then we will have to keep it in mind.
Absolutely, because database is something. It's just like mathematics.
Yeah.
More you practice, more you know about them, right?
Yeah.
And yes, one more thing, one more command, very last command. -h is the help command. Like what all? This is this -h. What all is there? What you can use?
Okay.
Right, so
Okay.
this is also very helpful. So as this is again a part of this recording, please take a look. And to get connection on any other test box or POC machine, what we have, because I remember we've got many test boxes or sandbox environments where we can go and do some practice for the Postgres. Right. So what you can do, please connect with Kuntal or else Somnath. Right, and they'll point you like who to reach to get access on those boxes. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time, guys. Bye
Yeah.
bye. See you.
Thanks.
See you.
Bye.
Bye, Prashant. Bye.
Yeah. Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.
Can you please stop this recording?
I
Raghavan.
think he left. Yeah, I think I think after the meeting ends, it'll automatically stop.
Okay, all right, then I'm leaving the call. Okay, bye.
Yeah, thanks. Have a good day. Bye.